Good day, I am Ahmed Medhat Saad or Ramadan of Group 4 from BSN 104N, and we will be reporting about the topic poetry and how poetry can be used in the means of communication. Starting with what poetry is all about, let's have Shyrean Rose San Victores.
What is poetry and what it is purpose? So, poetry is a condensed form of writing. As an art, it can effectively evoke a range of emotions in the reader. It can be presented in a number of forms ranging from traditional rhyme poems such as sonnets to contemporary free verse. Poetry has always been intrinsically tied to music, and many poems work with rhythm. It often brings awareness of current issues such as the state of the environment, but can also be read just for sheer pleasure. It's difficult to define as it is amorphous. Often one can recognize poetry by its use of line, meter, and stanzas. In other words, it's not written in prose, but poetry can also though less commonly be written in a prose. A poem may rhyme or not, but usually the emphasis of poetry is to evoke a feeling in the reader in surprising ways. A poet makes the invisible visible. The invisible includes our deepest feelings and angst, and also our joys, sorrows, and unanswered questions of being human. How is a poet able to do this? A poet uses fresh and original language and is more interested in how the arrangement of words affects the reader rather than solely grammatical construction. The poet thinks about how words sound, the musicality within each word, and also how the words come together. Like fiction writers, poets mostly show rather than tell. They describe the scene vividly using a few words as possible and prefer to describe rather than analyze, leaving the latter to the people who read and write about poetry as you are doing in this class. Poetry is so important because it helps us understand and appreciate the world around us. Poetry's strength lies in its ability to shed a sideway light on the world so the truth sneaks up on you. No questions about it. Poetry teaches us how to live. Poetry is like the Windex on a grubby car window. It bears open the vulnerability of human beings so we can all relate to each other a little better.
To further discuss the topic about poetry, let's have Christine Joy Carcha and Raiza Claire Romano on its different types.
Now, let's explore more on different types of poetry. First one is the haiku. The haiku or hokku is an ancient form of Japanese poetry that has become very popular all over the world. Renowned for its small size, haikus consist of just 3 lines or tercet. The first and third lines have 5 syllables, whereas the second has 7. Haikus don't have to rhyme and are usually written to evoke a particular mood or instance. So, you can have a lot of fun with them. You may have written or will find yourself writing your own haiku at some point in school. Or you can get creative and try it at home too. The next one is the villanelle. The villanelle is another very old form of poetry that came from France and has lots of rules. It is made up of 19 lines, 5 stanzas of 3 lines each, and a final stanza of 4 lines. As you can see from the rhyme scheme, ABA, 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 and ABAA, this type of poem only has 2 rhyming sounds. Plus, there is a lot of repetition throughout the villanelle. Line 1 will be repeated in line 6, 12, and 18 and line 3 will be repeated in lines 9, 15, and 19. So, although this takes out the extra work of having to write 19 individual lines, the real challenge is to make meaning out of those repeated lines. The second one is the free verse. Free verse is a popular style of modern poetry, and as its name suggests, there is a fair amount of freedom when it comes to writing a poem like this. Free verse can rhyme or not. It can have as many lines or stanzas as the poet wants, and it can be about anything you like. So, while free verse may sound simple enough, the lack of rules make this form of poetry makes it better to express yourself. The third one is the sonnet. This very old form of poetry was made famous by none other than Mr. William Shakespeare. But the sonnet actually originated in 13th century in Italy, where it was perfected by the poet Petrarch. The word sonnet is derived from the Italian word sonetto, which means little song. Traditionally, sonnets are made up of 14 lines and usually deal with love. As a rule, Petrarchan or an Italian sonnets follow an ABBA, ABBA, CDE, CDE rhyme scheme, whereas Shakespearean or English sonnets are typically AB, AB, CD, CD, EF, EF, G, and G. The fourth one is the acrostic. Like haikus, you're likely to encounter acrostic poems at school, but that doesn't mean they're boring. In fact, far from it. This type of poetry spells out a name, word, phrase, or message with the first letter of each line of the poem. It can rhyme or not, and typically the word spelled out lays down the theme of the poem. Why not try it with the silliest word you can think of? It can be really fun.
Limericks. Limericks are funny and sometimes rude poems which were made popular by Edward Lear in the 19th century. They have set rhyme scheme of AABBA with lines 1, 2, and 5 all being longer in length than lines 3 and 4. The last line is often the punchline. Their sound is very distinctive. It's likely you've heard or read one before. Ode. The ode is one of the oldest forms of poetry and believed to have come from ancient Greece. The word ode is derived from the Greek word aid, which means sing or chant, and these poems were originally performed with musical instruments, and ode is typically written to praise a person, event, or thing, or you can write an ode to your pet or favorite food, and they are usually quite short in length. Elegy. An elegy doesn't have rules like some of other poetry, but it does have a subject, which is death. They are usually written about loved one who passed away, but can also written about a group of people. Although they can be sound sad, elegies often end on a hopeful note. Ballad. The ballad is another old and traditional form of poetry that typically tells a dramatic or emotional story. They came from Europe in the late Middle Age and were initially passed down from one generation to another, and often with music. Ballads do have a set form. They are typically 4 lines and have a rhyme scheme of ABAB or ABCB. However, this form is looser than others, so can be modified to suit a writer's needs. Most modern pop songs you hear nowadays can be referred to as ballads.
Alright, let's have Chriza, Danice, and Andawe to discuss the important terms in poetry.
Have more knowledge on how to create poetry and to use it as a means of communication, let's now discuss certain terms that compose poetry. Stanza, a set amount of lines in poetry grouped together by their length, meter, or rhyme scheme. Couplet, a 2-line stanza. Tercet, a 3-line stanza. Quatrain, a 4-line stanza. Cinquain, a 5-line stanza. Sestet, a 6-line stanza. Meter. Meter is the pattern of stressed syllables, long sounding, and unstressed syllables, short sounding in poetry. Rhyme scheme. Rhyme scheme is the pattern of rhyme that comes at the end of each line or verse. Syllable. Syllable is the single unbroken sound of a spoken or written word. Alliteration. Alliteration is the repetition of consonant sounds, particularly at the beginning of the words. Consonants. Consonance is the repetition of similar consonant sounds. And last but not the least is assonance. Assonance is the repetition of similar vowel sounds.
So now we'll be having a segment where we'll be reading a literary piece or a poem that we'll be dissecting stanza by stanza or line by line to understand the communication nature that the poem or the author of the poem is trying to convey to the reader of the poem. So slowly we'll also be understanding the true message that the poem is trying to convey to the reader. So through that we will understand the communication process that is happening through poetry. So the title of this poem piece is Yellow Brick Road. So from the title itself, we're already having an idea what the poem is trying to convey, what it wants to communicate. So Yellow Brick Road. Where do we hear usually the phrase Yellow Brick Road? From, of course, we know this phrase from the Wizard of Oz, the Yellow Brick Road, where Dorothy went to reach the Great Wizard. So let's start reading this poem. I may have lost my way, but a trail has paved its path. A road that may not be familiar, yet still the curiosity of my soul lingers. I cannot wait for the trail to end, to see what awaits at the end. For I know excitement is not enough to say how emotion has consumed me along the way. As far as meadows go, as far as shadows can reach, I see such wonder that I can only describe, beautiful, enchanting you. Now in dissecting it slowly, stanza by stanza. So for the first stanza, this is what we have. I may have lost my way, but a trail has paved its path. Road that may not be familiar, yet still the curiosity of my soul lingers. So from that, what we have already an idea is the character in the poem wants to explore things more away from their comfort zone. So they have lost their way, they're losing hope, and they really want to understand other aspects, what they can do or where they can go. They want to explore their options and what does life has to offer to them, rather. In the lines, I may have lost my way, but a trail has paved its path, we can clearly state here that life is trying to pull the character in the poem back on track, on the right destiny that they are supposed to go through, in the right journey that they're supposed to go through. So you can see here in the start of the poem that the character is going through some things, some conflicts in their life. It may be internal or external factors that are creating conflicts in the character's journey in life. Now for the third and fourth line, road that may not be familiar, yet still the curiosity of my soul lingers. So this road may not be very familiar to you. It may depict that you're trying to go into a new perspective in your life. You're trying to go out of your comfort zone to know what else life has to offer to you. And because of that, going out of your comfort zone, your curiosity is building up to what else does life have for me? What does the future have in store for me? Now for the second stanza we have, I cannot wait for the trail to end to see what awaits at the end. For I know excitement is not enough to say how emotion has consumed me all along the way. So I cannot wait for the trail to end to see what awaits at the end. you're already in the journey. The character in the poem is already on the journey to discover what awaits for them at the end of the tunnel, at the end of the road, the yellow brick road. So your curiosity is, as I said earlier, your curiosity is building up. The curiosity of the character in the poem is building up to expect something that after the long voyage that they have, there's something that they deserve that is waiting at the end of the tunnel or the road that they're taking. Now, for the next lines, for I know excitement is not enough to say how emotion has consumed me along the way. In that journey that the character of the poem is going through, there's these emotions that are slowly consuming the sanity of the character, and how slowly the emotions that they're having is conflicting on the decisions that they're having along the journey that they are taking. And the excitement that the character has during the journey is somehow showing that I think this is the right track that I'm going through. This is the right journey. This is the right thing to do, because this is something that makes me excited in life. So that's it for the second stanza. Now for the third stanza, we have, as far as meadows go, as far as shadows can reach, I see such wonder that I can only describe, beautiful, enchanting. So let's slowly dissect that. So as far as meadows go, so as far as what you can see, as far as the horizons go, you will travel to just reach that beauty that you're finding in life, that goals that you're trying to reach in life. As far as meadows go, you will do it, you will reach it. As far as shadows can reach, so as even the slightest cracks, or the slightest cracks you have in yourself, in your mental stability, you will go through it to reach the goals that you want to go through, reach the goals rather that you want to reach in life. And I see such wonder that I can only describe, beautiful, enchanting. At the end of the yellow brick road, just like the story of Dorothy, she will reach the wish that she wants to, the wish that she wanted in the first place, which is to go home, to have a normal life, not a very lunatic life that she had in the Wizard of Oz story. And as she reached the end of the story, she met the great wizard that brought her home where she wanted to go home, which is her previous house. So I see such wonder that I can only describe, beautiful, enchanting you. At the end of the yellow brick road, for sure, the character in this poem could see something that they longed for or wished for a very, very, very long time. It may be a physical thing, a mental thing, an emotion thing, or it can be also a metaphor for something that you're finding within yourself. Beautiful, enchanting you. At the end of the road, the only companion that you have in life is yourself. You. And that's the beauty in life, because without you, there's no you. Literally. So, beautiful, enchanting you would understand this better if you're having conflict with yourself, doubting yourself, and along the journey that you have in life, you would understand that it's okay to have mistakes. It's okay to trip over the yellow brick road, because you know at the end of the road, you're gonna find yourself and you're gonna appreciate all of the obstacles you went through in that yellow brick road. Now for an overall dissection of the poem in the all of the lines as a whole, when I was writing this, I wanted to convey a meaning or a message that in this part you can lose yourself. you in life you can lose yourself. But slowly, if you focus on yourself, focus on the journey that you want to take, on the goals that you're setting on yourself, you will find this hope in yourself, this excitement that, hey, I'm slowly finding myself. And at the end of that brick road, yellow brick road, you will find that you are perfectly molded into the best way you can be, because all of the obstacles you have been through, all of these problems you have gone through, all of that are valid, and all of that are are testimonies to show how you are beautiful, enchanting as you are. And that's it for dissecting a literary piece or poem and understanding the communication that a poetry is trying to convey to its readers.